Hello, my friends. Assalamu alaikum. I am going to read an article written by the author of Grand Scheme of God in the Light of Quran on the subject of use and mention of the words. The title of the article is Logic, Gary Miller and Quran. Today's word is a word of science. If someone presents a theory, hypothesis, or claim before the scientific community, they are asked to provide falsification tests. Falsification tests mean that you must explain how your theory, hypothesis, or claim can be proven wrong. The scientific community is not willing to invest time in proving you right. If your theory, hypothesis, or claim passes these falsification tests, only then will the community consider it worthy of further thought and investigation. However, if it fails these tests, the scientific community will reject it outright, deeming it unworthy of further consideration. To clarify this concept, I will share the story of a person that will not only explain these falsification tests in detail, but also highlight the attitude of a true seeker of knowledge and how God guides such individuals. This person's name is Gary Miller. He is a Canadian citizen, a mathematician and logician who also holds a PhD in Christianity, earning him the title of Doctor of Divinity, that is DD. Gary Miller taught logic and mathematics at Toronto University and was also an active Christian preacher. Several programs featuring him in this role were broadcast on Canadian television. Gary Miller states that he had additional questions about Christianity that prompted him to explore every denomination within Christianity. This journey lasted approximately 17 years, after which he concluded that Christianity does not have the answers to his questions. He says that during these programs, I had a co-host who was also a Doctor of Divinity. One day, after the program, I asked him if we had any evidence for what we were presenting. He asked what I meant by evidence. I replied, "Did Jesus actually say these things?" He said, "Yes." I then asked, "Can you show this to me?" He replied, "Yes, but I don't have a Bible with me right now." I handed him a red letter Bible in which the words of Jesus are written in red ink. He showed me a reference to which I said, "This is written in black ink," meaning these are not the words of Jesus. He showed me another reference, and again I pointed out that it was also in black ink, meaning these too were not the words of Jesus. I then said, since these are not the words of Jesus, we should not present them as the word of God. Gary Miller explains that more questions arose in his mind regarding Christianity. To find answers, he explored every denomination of Christianity. This journey lasted for about 17 years, after which he concluded that Christianity simply did not have the answers to his questions. Gary Miller then says, I decided that I would now study the book of the later religion, the Quran, objectively. I estimated that this would require 2 to 3 years. After that, I would present my questions to the followers of this book. However, before conducting this detailed study, I needed to follow a completely scientific approach and first check if the Quran offers any falsification tests to disprove its claim that this is the word of God. If it does not offer any falsification tests, then spending additional time studying it would be pointless. With this frame of mind, Gary Miller began searching the Quran for a falsification test. He came across a verse in Surah An-Nisa, that is chapter 4, verse 82, which states, "Do they not then consider the Quran? If it had been from other than Allah, they would have found within it much contradiction." In simple words, this verse is saying that if you find even a single contradiction in this Quran, you can reject it as the word of God. Since Gary Miller was also a logician, he was well aware of the journey that logic had undertaken from its origins to its advancements. From the time of Aristotle in the 4th century BCE to reaching Stanislaw Lesniewski in the 20th century CE, humanity gained the knowledge that there is a difference between the use and mention of words and the significance of self-reference. The journey of logic is such that from the time of Aristotle, the 3 laws of thought in logic have been the same. These classical laws of thought were so solid that they remained unchanged until the 19th century CE. Aristotle's 3 laws of thought are as follows: law of identity or entity, law of non-contradiction, law of excluded middle. In the 19th century, Schopenhauer, a German philosopher, added a law known as the law of sufficient reason. Nearly a century later, in Poland, there was a person named Stanislaw Lesniewski who was a mathematician and logician. He is the same individual who rejected the axiomatic theory at a time when it was widely accepted and provided the foundational points for the rejection of Bertrand Russell's paradox. He also discovered an extremely valuable concept in logic known as self-reference. This discovery highlighted a mistake in Aristotle's 3rd law, which states that every statement is either true or false. He used the word every in the statement, while the word every itself is included in the statement. Since Aristotle was unaware of self-reference, he was unable to account for it in his 3rd law. It is important to clarify here that the use and mention of words is not just a complicated matter of language, but this self-reference has a significant application in modern computer programming. Moreover, it would not be wrong to say that the very foundation of mathematics is logic. Gary Miller thought that while Aristotle did not know the difference between the use and mention of words, if this book, the Quran, is the book of God and is preserved in his own words, then it must certainly have knowledge of the difference between the use and mention of words. At this point, it seems necessary to present a few examples regarding this principle. That is, the use and mention of words, to fully clarify the difference between the use and mention of words. Example number 1. Cheese is derived from milk. Cheese is derived from the Old English word spelled as C-Y-S-E, Syze. In the first statement, the word cheese is used, and in the second, it is mentioned. In the first statement, cheese refers to an edible item, whereas in the second statement, it refers not to the item itself, but to the word cheese. Example number 2. Copper is a metal. Copper contains 6 letters. In the first statement, the word copper is used, and in the second, it is mentioned. In the first statement, copper refers to a metal, whereas in the second statement, it refers not to the metal, but to the word copper. Example number 3. That is my cow. Cow has 3 letters. In the first statement, the word cow is used, and in the second, it is mentioned. In the first statement, cow refers to an animal, whereas in the second statement, it refers not to the animal, but to the word cow. My friends, this ends part 1 of this article. We will continue in part 2. Thank you.